is a book about fighting, in which the main theme follows themes of bad materialism. Not what are you doing?
keep rolling.
Stop elevating.
No, it's part of it.
Okay.
Keep rolling.
Nihilism, and just general boredom and the problems of being trapped in a modern society.
It's representative. Just keep going.
Yes,
keep going,
when materialism is what defines a person. And so our main guy, the narrator, works as an insurance guy, and what he does is that he works his boring job, and he's also a terrible person. Because in his job, what he does is that he how cars have problems, they still have to do recalls. He determines if the recall would be more expensive than the lawsuit for not doing the recall. So for example, he knew there was this chemical in the car that could cause toxicity to pregnant women, but they left it in because they determined that the recall would be more expensive than the eventual lawsuit. So he's a terrible person. And so now he hates his life too, because he just lives in his condominium with IKEA furniture, and he feels trapped by his furniture. He spends pretty much all day when he's not working and screwing people over, going through his IKEA catalog and deciding which cabinet he wants to buy. And so he has a horrible life basically, and he begins to develop insomnia. He begins to develop insomnia because he's so just tired of his life and how lame it is, and he gets worried that he's wasting his life. And so he goes on this trip one time, and he's flying around, because he flies around all the time. And he flies around because he goes to these different cancer support groups that he goes to try and find meaning in his life. That's why he goes to these cancer support groups. And what he does there is he basically just kind of
quick asterisk, his doctor told him insomnia is no big deal because you can't die from it. So this thing that's driving him insane got basically dismissed by his doctor.
Yeah, so he's like an Atrium Health doctor basically. And
can we do that? Can we call out corporations?
We can. Sydney's texting you. Anyway, so yeah, he does that, and he goes to these cancer help centers because it makes him feel better about himself, because all these people are going to die instantaneously, and it makes him feel better about his horrible life. And then he hugs the cancer patients and he feels whole. And then this lady shows up.
Big Bob.
Yes, Big Bob. There's this guy called Big Bob who hugs him. He's a fat man, and our narrator loves Big Bob. Big Bob always makes him cry and give him hugs, and once the narrator cries, he feels a lot better about himself.
Big Bob has D cups.
Yes, he does.
That's not me being juvenile. That's a big point in the
book. They actually spend several paragraphs.
This ponytail.
Stop. Hold on.
Sorry, I got distracted.
They spend several paragraphs describing Big Bob's large body size, basically. Yes. Yeah. And so anyway, he meets this girl called Marla.
We didn't forget. That was part of it. That was a skit. That was planned.
Marla Singer, and she's a faker too. She also doesn't have cancer, and she knows he's faking, and so they stare at each other, and so they trade off cancer groups. He's like, you can have all the cancer groups, but I need the testicle cancer group. And then she's like, yes. So then he goes, and he just kind of. I forgot something. Yes, they do hug at one point. After, for some reason, they hug. Well, because he hugs all the cancer people, and he hugs Marla because she's there. So after the hug,
it's part of the cancer support group.
I said that. I just said
it. It's gonna sound like God is saying it. It's gonna sound like God came into the video.
Shush, you're ruining it. Be quiet.
Sorry, we're gonna edit this in Premiere.
We're not.
We're gonna fix it in post.
Be quiet, so we can finish. We're already 3 minutes in, okay? Or 4 minutes in, actually.
Okay.
Be quiet. Shut up. Stop talking.
Okay.
After he goes. Move your head. You're ruining it. Give me the phone. After he goes and he's flying around. He travels all the time, and he meets this guy called Tyler Durden, who he also finds on the airplane with him from time to time. And
they're doing demonstration. This is Tyler Durden. This is Joe. They're seeing each other on. Joe is the narrator's name, by the way.
It's not. This name is not Joe.
We have debate about that, but it's either point is literarily valid, and either point is valid for this presentation. So we're not gonna get class taken off. So
okay, sure.
This is the narrator, and this is Tyler Durden. And Tyler Durden flies around because he sells soap, and the narrator flies around because he has a boring corporate job that he has to fly around for. So they're seeing each other on flights every once so often. That's how they know each other. They're just doing this in their life.
Okay, here you go. Hold it again so I can.
I'm holding it again. Okay.
Don't mess around with it. Okay, so Tyler, they're leaving. Okay. Anyway,
don't worry about it. They don't understand the grind set like we do.
Tyler. So he meets with Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden is a soap sales guy, and he sells soap, and he also knows all these weird details about explosives. He's like, oh, you can mix orange juice and soap and create a bomb. And so he talks about that.
Using gasoline.
And so he talks about that. 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 And so he it's not really important, but whatever. So he
Napalm.
knows all these explosive facts,
Uh-huh.
and so they go about their business, and eventually they get drunk. After the guy's apartment blows up, his apartment explodes because he left the pilot light on of the stove, and then the fridge activated, and there was an explosion, and hold on,
Give us
we'll be there in a minute.
Give us 6 minutes. We'll be inside.
Just leave us. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks. Okay, just a couple minutes.
We're in
We'll
the
be
middle.
right back.
We're in the
We'll be
middle
right
of our
in there.
take right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's gonna be in there.
That's okay. We'll cut it out.
No, we're gonna be long. We're gonna be
I'm
shorter
just
than
gonna go to
14 minutes.
iPhone.
Wait, shush. We need to actually start.
iMovie.
We actually keep going. We need to keep
Movie
going.
Maker.
Shush.
Okay.
Okay. So so he goes with Tyler Durden, and they start a fight club after he goes and drinks with Tyler Durden after his apartment explodes, and so they're hanging out. They drink and they get. And I did already.
Okay.
And they get in a fight, and then after the fight, they decide to start a fight club.
Tyler wins.
Tyler does.
Tyler
yeah,
wins the
yeah.
fight easily.
Tyler wins.
It's worth noting.
Yes, and they start a fight club, and they're fighting. They have all these other people. Big Bob joins.
Big Bob gets jacked.
Big Bob does
Big
get
Bob
checked.
gets
Yeah, to be able to be able to fight in Fight Club, and also Marla shows up, but she doesn't really fight. I don't think she just kind of hangs out.
She just kind of hangs out.
She kind of hangs out in their house.
She's like a casual hookup with Tyler.
Yeah,
essentially.
she's
and also
she's having intercourse with Tyler with
Marlo is threatening to commit suicide, and Tyler and Joe showed up to her house right before the cops showed up to talk her down from committing suicide, and then went in her apartment and grabbed her, and then they all left. So Marla is like missing. As far as the authorities
are concerned,
they don't know where she is.
Yeah. So then
I was Tourette's.
Okay, so then, after that, they start a fight club, and Tyler begins planning this terrorist group called Project Mayhem, and he recruits all these people he calls space monkeys in order to be terrorists, and, they all do terrorism together. It's a big happy thing.
That's not an exact, it literally is just terrorism.
Yeah.
It's just terrorism. There's no,
and a big theme, and big part of Tyler's theme, which is the overall theme of the book, is sort of like, meeting rock bottom in order to change your life, because if, even if your life, you don't like it and you're not satisfied with it, you're not going to want to change it if you're still secure in it. So Tyler's whole thing is that he wants to, ruin people's lives so they'll get away from their crappy lives and actually do something that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, you got to crater yourself so you can reinvent yourself.
Like there's one scene where one of the terrorists is driving the narrator towards a truck, and he says the narrator has to say something that's truly one thing he would regret if he died right now. And, the narrator says that he would regret not quitting his job. Mm-hmm. So then the guy who was driving says, well, you got to quit your job next. And also after that, they meet this guy on the street because they have to kill 14 people as part of a homework assignment that Tyler gave them.
The homework assignments are just terrorist acts.
Yes. And so they're killing, he's about to kill this guy. And then the guy's like, I wanted to be a vet, but I didn't. And, he works in a diner, I think. He's a waiter of some kind. And, the narrator says, well, I won't shoot you, but in a year from now, I want you to be a vet.
Talk about the restaurant.
And so the guy runs off. Oh, yeah. Also, during this time,
simultaneous.
Tyler and the narrator, they do some stuff where they go to the bathroom and restaurant food.
Well, they work for a restaurant.
Yeah.
They work for a very nice restaurant at a very nice hotel. Well, every time I look back, my hair is completely...
Just focus.
They work at a very nice restaurant for some of the richest people ever. It's like a hotel restaurant. And just as part of this whole weird little terrorism thing they're doing, they keep peeing in the soup and farting on the cake and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, they do weird stuff like that.
And so they just kind of mess around with people as much as possible. And they'll also terrorize it's not just a sneaky thing. They'll terrorize the rich people. They'll go to this rich old lady and be like, somebody peed in your soup, and then she starts freaking out, and she goes in the bathroom and she breaks $400 worth of perfume, and she's holding a broken perfume bottle, having a full psychotic breakdown. They didn't say she peed in
her soup. They said he peed in her perfume or something.
They did both. They actually peed in her soup, and then they threatened to pee in her.
And she thought she did pee in her perfume bottles. Yes, and she lost her mind.
Yes.
Anyway.
And the reason that was significant is because we feel bad for the rich lady, but then we find out that all those perfumes were made from fat from endangered whales, and we realize, Tyler kind of has a point.
So then Tyler goes missing. He disappears. And so, the narrator is trying to find Tyler, and he starts flying to all the different fight clubs. After the original fight club was started, other fight clubs all around the country were inspired. So, he goes to New York, he goes to Chicago, he goes to Phoenix.
He's trying to find Tyler.
He's trying to find Tyler.
He still has his job. He's still flying around, and he's always looking for we haven't seen Tyler in a really long time.
And so he goes to Seattle, and he walks into a bar, which he knows hosts a fight club. And he asks, have you seen Tyler Durden? And the guy behind the barman, the bartender, says, "Is this a test?" And he's like, "No, like, tell me, And he's like, "You're Tyler Durden." And he's like, "What?" And so then he begins to freak out, and he calls Marla, and she's like, "You are Tyler, what are you talking about?" And then he's like, "Did we have sex?" And she thinks he's trying to be flaky with her, and so she starts yelling at him. And so at this point, he's kind of freaking out because he realizes he is Tyler Durden, and Tyler Durden was this, like, alternate creation that his mind created due to, like, boredom and, insomnia and just basic insanity. And
he's, like, depersonalized.
And so Tyler is basically who he wants to be because, he's charismatic, he's determined, he has a vision.
He has abs.
Yes, and, he's a girlfriend. So he has all these things that main character wants, but doesn't, quote-unquote, have. But he actually does have them because he is Tyler. He just doesn't realize it because Tyler, their minds are separate.
Just give us, like, 90 seconds. Okay, we'll be right there.
Okay, so they go about that, and they do that, and so Tyler, So Tyler and,
Did she say someone's crying?
And no.
Oh, that's fine.
So
Okay,
Tyler and the narrator, they're doing their thing. And why don't you finish it? Because we,
you've been talking for a while. You've called the mental toll of all this. Okay, so then Tyler and the narrator realize that each other's are their... The narrator realizes that Tyler is his alter ego. Tyler and the narrator have a conversation. Tyler reveals that, hey, Mr. Narrator, the reason you're so tired all the time is because every time you go to sleep, you're not actually going to sleep. It's me. I'm a little guy. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes, it is.
Then Tyler's taking over. He's going and doing, like, Tyler things.
Yeah.
The things that Tyler would do. Crazy people.
He blew up his boss. He blew up his boss.
He did.
He killed a guy randomly. The mayor's, like, assistant or something. Special envoy.
He thinks that he demolished a building, like a skyscraper in downtown, like similar to 9/11.
Well, they're planning to demolish it, but then when they're on the roof of the building, Marla and some of the people from the
again,
cancer support
they
groups,
being Tyler and the narrator, who are the same person. Secretly.
Yes, Tyler thinks narrator thinks Tyler has a gun in his mouth. He's licking the gun. It's kind of weird.
It's weirdly sensual. He's like, it's not. He's like, I don't want to emulate it.
And then Marla shows up, and she's like, don't do this, etc., etc., etc. All the things people say to someone who's about to commit suicide, because to them it looks like narrator's just putting the gun in his mouth, because Tyler doesn't actually exist.
It's very basic advice. It's not personalized like I love you. It's like, don't do it.
And then he shoots himself. And, he thinks he dies, but actually what happened is he shot himself and it went through his cheek, but he passes out, so he thinks he dies, and he wakes up in a mental hospital, and he's like...
Oh, wait, hang on. We should mention that the building blowing up thing I was talking about, Tyler is killing him, while he's about to commit suicide, he's standing on top of a building that he thinks he's about to demolish, but he's not actually. This is like a weird psychotic episode he's had. And there are a couple other, unrealistic events in the book, like someone painting a smile on the side of an entire skyscraper.
Was, riding a motorcycle.
So there's it makes you wonder, like, has he been imagining everything this entire book? What's going on? Are these actual real things that are happening?
So, he goes into a mental hospital.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's dead. He thinks he's in heaven. And he argues with this doctor, and he's like, God has a lot of diplomas, and he argues with him.
He thinks the doctor is God.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, heaven's really quiet. Everyone wears rubbered shoes and brings you trays of food 3 times a day. So he's in a mental hospital at the end. And so basically the theme of the book is that, materialism, people become, trapped by materialism, and they lose all meaning in their life. And we're in the middle of something. You're ruining the tape.
We're almost done.
Shush. And Alec, go away.
1 second.
Be quiet. You ruined it. Let me finish. Okay.
What about the Fight Club Alec? Am I right?
We are going to Fight Club Alec.
He's Tyler.
No, he's Big Bob. Anyway,
Big Jacked Big Bob. After Big Bob.
Yeah, Big Bob.
Base Bob.
Yeah, Base Bob. Anyway, so Tyler, the main theme of the book is, this is May. Come on. Anyway, the main theme of the book is that, people get trapped by materialism, and this leads them, to lose all meaning in their life and become nihilists, like main character did. And this, can cause problems in society. And this is a big thing, and still is a big thing today, because, materialism is so prominent in our culture, and many people, feel that they become one with their possessions. And as Tyler says, eventually the possessions own you, and you lose all sense of your own person and your personality.
Fight Club is basically, to build off of that, essentially what we're saying is, how is it so different? Okay. Fight Club is essentially, in the book, the purpose of the book is that the narrator has such an incredibly oppressive, meaningless, tucked away, materialistic life, where he's just this little cubicle 9-to-5 guy, and his passions are not things that actually matter, that he cares about. It's just like buying IKEA furniture.
Yeah. And
he's so incredibly frustrated and constrained by all of these
He's such an
societal
NPC, he
rules.
loses his mind.
He is an NPC. Yeah, and he just kind of goes insane one day. He just breaks. He's like, ah! And so the whole book and all of its violence and like grossness and horror and terrorism is all just an expression of the narrator's frustration, and like he has no response. Yeah, he has no purpose, and he has no response to the nihilistic nature of the universe other than to just like freak out.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to like deal with the fact that his life has no purpose.
Okay, that's Fight Club. Now we gotta fight.
No, we're not doing that.
Oh, well, we'll stitch it in. We'll take another video where we fight, and then
Yeah.
we'll put it in. Right now we gotta go.
Yeah.